Show me your heart. I know that it's beating. Tell me that you love me too. So I know your heart is true. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. This episode of Proof of Love is brought to you by Vaultoro. Vaultoro is a gold hedging solution for the crypto community. One of the challenges of investing in cryptocurrencies is dealing with volatility. Keeping a diversified portfolio is a key to healthy returns. I keep about 10% of my crypto assets in gold using Vaultoro. Vaultoro allows me to open a gold wallet in seconds where I can trade easily with cryptos in gold. What I like about using Vaultoro instead of Tether is that the gold in my Vaultoro wallet is insured, audited, vaulted in Switzerland, and unlike fiat money, gold has increased in value for the last 20 years. Visit vaultoro.gold/Tatiana today and get zero trading fees for the first 3 months. That is vault, like a gold vault, and oro, which is Spanish for gold. Vaultoro, ole! I want to talk about Celsius Network. They're doing a really cool thing, trying to revolutionize the way we think about financial services. Basically, they're offering their users up to 10% annual interest on their crypto deposit, and there's no secret to how they're doing it. That 10% comes from them sharing 80% of their profits, rather than the minuscule percentage the banks share. Celsius is giving our users $10 in BTC when they make a deposit of $200 or more in crypto or stablecoins when they use promo code LOVE. Go to Celsius.network. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of Proof of Love. Today, I'm actually alone, not completely because I'm joined by a friend, but Lauren Kasovitz is off on a plane to Japan. I don't know if she still will be when this is airing. And Stephanie is enjoying love in her little cottage, and it's the weekend. But I'm excited because I'm getting to do this show with a friend of mine from my old Ron Paul days, Julie Borowski. And before we get started, I just wanted to say really quickly, thank you so much to our sponsor, Vaultoro. They are a gold and Bitcoin hedging solution, so you don't have to take the risk of Bitcoin all the time. You can have the stability of gold with the convenience of Bitcoin. So check them out. Thanks so much, guys, for supporting the show. But I'd like to take the moment now to welcome Julie Borowski. Julie Borowski is a pro-liberty commentator. She's best known for her YouTube channel, and she's the author of a recent children's book, Nobody Knows How to Make a Pizza. We're going to talk a little bit with her today. But just so you guys know, I actually met Julie many years ago at a Veterans Support Ron Paul. So back in 2012, for those of you who are not really politically minded, Ron Paul was bringing together the people from the left, from the right. Everybody loved him, especially the troops. And so we participated in a contest, and we got to be on stage at this huge rally where they had over 1,000 different people. And it was basically an anti-war statement to the current president at the time. They all love war. I think it was Obama at the time, but this was in 2012. And so Julie gave an amazing speech on stage. I did a performance. That was also fun. So we've known each other ever since. And I think she's been on the Tatiana show before. But thank you so much, Julie, for joining us today on Proof of Love and sharing a little bit of your personal side.
Sure. Thank you for having me on.
Awesome. So why don't you give us a little bit of background on just you in general, what kind of drives you and what's brought you to this point?
Sure. So I usually tell about how I got involved in liberty. I guess I'll talk about that a little bit. But I was raised pretty conservative-minded. And it wasn't until maybe high school I kind of learned about libertarian stuff. I took the world's smallest political quiz online, and I found out I was a libertarian. And up to that point, I did not know what that meant. And that kind of got me really excited about liberty and activism and really kind of expressing myself on the internet. And that's where I've kind of gone. I started a YouTube channel a few years later, 2011, I believe. You talked about I was big in the Ron Paul days. I was giving speeches. And that was kind of what really drove me kind of expressing myself in libertarian politics and meeting new people. And I loved traveling the country. I even traveled to a couple of different countries and meeting people who had like-minded views, and that was really what was really interested to me back in those days. So yeah, it's been a wild ride.
So do you think that, I mean, I guess part of my reticence for bringing up our Ron Paul days is because we want the show to be appealing to a lot of people, and people have a lot of misunderstandings about libertarianism. which you've worked really hard in your hilarious videos to sort of dispel some of those myths. Do you get a lot of pushback as time has gone on? Because, I mean, we're in a little bit of a vacuum, right? Because we hang out with people that are similar politically. But now when you go out and you meet with people, especially with some of the vitriol between the Democrats and the Republicans, how do you think that the the libertarian label is faring?
It really depends on who you're speaking to. If you're speaking to somebody from the left or the right, from the left you typically get, oh, you hate poor people or you're privileged yourself. And from the right, you tend to get, oh, you guys are just a bunch of druggies. You just want to legalize drugs. That's all you guys are. So it really depends on who you're speaking to. On my YouTube videos, I've tried to make them funny, just kind of different, because I feel like a lot of libertarian people, they tend to be pretty dry and boring, and, you know, drone on about this or that very things. And I've tried to make it more personal in that aspect to kind of show my personality. And I feel like that's really good. If you use humor, people aren't as mean to you. It kind of breaks down the complex into the very simple, and, you know, getting people to laugh is a big tool in communicating to them.
So I feel personally that you can get a little bit burnt out on this kind of activism stuff. I know I've sort of tried to do a little bit more personal development and just a little bit more time for me in general. That's what I've been trying to set some of those boundaries. And you, I'm sure, have gone through somewhat similar experiences, especially now that you've pulled back and you've had a child. Do you want to tell me a little bit about, you know, how that transition has been for you?
Sure. So I was kind of naive when I was pregnant with my baby now. And I was like, oh, yeah, I can continue, you know, being a libertarian activist and traveling the country and making YouTube videos. Well, I learned that being a mom is much harder than I ever thought. So I kind of pulled back a couple years ago and just focused on my son. And I mean, that's what I had to do, and I'm glad I did that. But now I'm kind of back. He's a little bit older now. He's more independent. Other people can watch him now, so I've been more active. But yeah, I mean, it was really good actually for my mental health to pull back a little bit. I was so focused on him, I wasn't paying attention to the news, which is really good because the news is it's really bad for your mental health. It's bad for your anxiety. They like to post all these fear-mongering stuff. They like to make you angry, make you sad, and kind of focusing on my family was really good for my mental health. But now, like I said, he's older. I'm getting more back into it. But yeah, it's been crazy the past year or two.
I can imagine. So all right, people all say that having a kid is hard. What makes it so hard, and what are some of the things that you were shocked by? Because I don't know. I don't have a kid. I got to tell you, I love my niece and nephew, but it's kind of, you know, it's easy to hand them back and then not deal with them when they're screaming and stuff. So how do you deal with some of those challenges?
Well, they are very, very demanding. It's like the most demanding boss you'll ever have. I mean, it's wonderful. It's great, but it can be very hard at times. If we're being honest, the hardest thing for me was honestly just the lack of sleep. In the beginning, I like to sleep like we all do, and just waking up every half hour to go feed him and getting out of the bed and just like being a zombie for the rest of the day, and having this demanding child he was very, very clingy to me at the beginning, and he wanted to be held and walked constantly, and like on a very, very lack of sleep. That was so hard. The most surprising thing, though, that I've realized is how judgmental people are. For me, like I said, my baby was very clingy, and people would get on to me like, oh, you need to put that baby down, let him cry. And I was just always holding him, and that was kind of really strange to me. And I've kind of realized that our culture, the American Western culture, does not like babies as much as I thought, because they're very much like, oh, just let that baby cry, put that baby down, don't hold that baby so much. That to me was very strange. So I've kind of been looking at how Eastern societies and different societies treat their babies, and I feel like they treat their babies much better than we do, which is kind of a shock to me.
Yeah, that's definitely surprising. Do you think that there are, like, did you read any books or anything? Like, what was your approach to trying to manage? I mean, it's your first child. So how did you figure it out?
I went to the internet because at my doctor's appointment, I felt like they were so judgmental to me about how much I woke up to take care of my baby, and I was all this stuff. I found what's called attachment parenting, which is you carry your baby, extended breastfeeding, you co-sleep with them, and that to me was like, oh my gosh, I finally found people who were doing the same things that I was doing, and it was completely normal to them. And I realized that I was kind of raised in the same way. I co-slept with my parents. I breastfed for a long time. My mom was always holding us. I was a very clingy baby too. So I kind of realized that there was people out there who were doing exactly like I was doing. William Sears is this famous pediatrician who talks about it. And I kind of feel like there's an overlap between attachment parents and libertarianism and peaceful parenting, which I also do. I obviously do not spank my child. So it was kind of like this whole kind of thing that was coming together in my mind that I had no idea about. Before I had a kid, I did not realize that there was so much about libertarian parenting that I really didn't know. So that was refreshing to me to find all these people who shared my philosophy as well as my parenting philosophy.
Does that tie into attachment theory? Are you familiar with attachment theory? We talk about it quite a lot in terms of in adult relationships.
It does a bit. One of the things I was also surprised about is how much how you're treated as an infant impacts you for the rest of your life. Like, you obviously don't remember when you're a baby, but how you're treated by people around you when you're an infant carries for the rest of your life. They've done stuff that, like, how much you're carried as a baby affects your DNA. How much you're hugged and how much your parents respond to you. I know in American culture, crying it out is popular when you're putting your baby to sleep, and they've done all this research about how that's actually harmful to your baby. Like, your baby wants to be held, your baby wants to be responded to. So I've realized that infants, up until like they're 3 years old, how they're treated is so important and impacts them for the rest of their life.
Yeah, I have heard about the variance in the original prescription of, letting them cry it out and self-soothe. And I would agree with that. I think it's interesting as an adult seeing, for example, my own family interact with the baby. You know what I mean? It kind of gives you little hints and stuff as to how things worked out in your own relationship with your parents. Sometimes I find my mom to be a little bit challenging, and I've had my problems with my dad before, but they're really, really lovely with the kids. So it's kind of interesting to see the interfamily dynamics as new people are added into the family, because we have a relatively small family. I think it mellows everybody out. Did everybody in your family act the same, or were there any kind of changes in your family after you had your child?
Not really. Like you said, you can see how your parents kind of interacted with the baby, and you kind of assume they did the same with you. And I've kind of realized how much I've agreed with what my parents did when I was a child. The attachment thing, I don't, like my mom said back in the 80s, no one really was doing that. She kind of just trusted her instincts. And I feel like so much of parenting really is trusting your instincts. If you feel bad about letting your baby cry, there's a reason for it. Back in the caveman days, all babies slept with their mothers. That was biologically normal. And I feel like today we're kind of pushing babies to be so independent at an early age when they really can't handle it. Cribs and stuff are modern inventions. So I kind of see what my parents have done with my son. I've kind of realized that they did the same with me. So no, I'm very glad with how I was raised for the most part.
That's awesome. What do you think? There's so many things that I want to ask you about. I was reading an article about how children are getting put into preschool really early, and they are also getting prescribed, medicines and stuff like that. I think homeschooling becomes a little bit more of a real option as they get older, just because I hear so many horror stories about public school. How do you navigate some of that? Because obviously it's great to be able to send your kids to school and be able to get stuff done eventually, but have you thought about putting your son into early schooling? Do you have any concerns around that? What do you think of the public school system?
We're not there yet, but I've seen those studies that say we're pushing schooling on kids too young, especially like preschool and stuff, that kids, they really want to play, and play is actually educational for them at that age, and socializing with other kids and having fun. But we're putting like these 3-year-olds in these schools that we're teaching them, oh, here's your numbers, here's your colors, and they're kind of sitting down and learning, but they're not really learning because they're really just memorizing a bunch of stuff. And I know they've done studies that say by the second grade, kids who are in these preschools are not better off than kids who did not go to preschool. So it's just really them memorizing stuff. And when really the beneficial thing right at that age is emotional intelligence, like you like to talk about, and socializing with their kids. So it's better for them just to kind of play and socialize. And yeah, they'll learn numbers and everything later on, of course. So I think we are pushing kids to learn in a schooling environment too young when they're just not ready for it.
How have you decided to deal with vaccines? I mean, there's, my sister-in-law, she had a lot of vaccines, and I think that would be probably something that I would be a little bit reticent with, because any kind of research I've seen, and it hasn't been that intense, but anything that I've seen has been sort of inconclusive, and there's kind of wild claims on either sides. How did you navigate that? What did you decide? And, if you're okay with sharing that.
Oh, Lord, I don't know if I want to share that. I feel like people on both sides of that debate are absolutely crazy. But I will tell you that I did research. I looked a bunch of stuff online. I looked at the government websites, and I looked at people, the mommy blogs, and see what people were doing. But really at the end, I trusted my doctor. I talked to my doctor about my concerns, and we came up with something. But yeah, I feel like people on that debate are absolutely crazy that I'm going to get so much hate no matter what. So, do your research, trust your doctors, find a good doctor. First of all, I feel like not all doctors are good. So, talk to people and come up with your own decisions.
Yeah, I think it's definitely not a fun conversation to have with people because they have a very strong opinion one way or the other. And I can understand why there are questions on both sides. So that makes sense. Go with your doctor, guys. Get a good doc. Going back to something that you said, spanking. What I wanted to know about was you said that you choose no spanking, which makes sense. Although some people would say, well, sometimes a kid is going to run into the street and they need something a little bit more shocking to get them out of it and to get them to behave correctly. What has been your method to work around having to spank? Because obviously I'm sure your child is lovely, but not always perfect.
Sure. I think so. It's really important, the parent-child relationship, and I feel like spanking kind of destroys that. I just kind of feel like spanking is lazy because it does work right then. So if you spank your child, of course, they're going to listen to you at that moment, but really over time, it breaks down the parent-child relationship. I think it's similar to yelling, and I know that's something that I've tried to work on over the years. Yelling is effective in the moment. Somebody will listen to you, but at the end, it's really damaging over the long term. So I think the problem with spanking is it's obviously hurting your child, which is a bad thing, I would say. But in that moment, you can get addicted to spanking. You can get addicted to yelling. So I think it's really kind of about having self-control and trying to reason with your child and coming with alternatives that don't hurt that parent-child relationship. Because if your child is scared of you, they're not over time going to respect you. And I think it all comes down to respect. I wasn't really spanked as a child, and I know some people say, oh, you're spoiling your child and all this, but I think my parents have a good relationship with me, partly because I wasn't spanked, partly because I didn't fear them. I respected them, and I think we tend to think that fear and respect are the same thing, but they're not. It's more important for your child to respect you.
How do you establish that? I mean, do you do timeouts? What specifically do you use in terms of techniques?
Well, right now my son is pretty young. He's a toddler, and those can be challenging. It can be challenging in the grocery store and stuff when he's kind of having a meltdown. I don't do timeout yet because he's still too young to understand that, but I just try to reason with him. I just try to talk to him. I try to be calm. I think that's the most important thing for me, to be calm. In motherhood, I've really learned to have patience, which I did not have before, just to kind of breathe and talk to him calmly and try to settle him down. I found that to be more effective. I would say I have not yelled or anything at him, but I find just if I'm calm, he's looking at me, how I'm reacting. Like, for instance, when he falls down, he's running, he just falls down. If I kind of overreact and goes, oh my gosh, are you okay? Okay, he's going to overreact himself. But if I come up to him and say, hey, you okay, buddy? He's fine. So I've learned that how I react to what he's doing, he's going to model that behavior. So I've tried to just calm and a reasonable approach.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing all that. What is going on now? You wrote a book. I guess it's a little bit like a kid's version of iPencil. Tell me a little bit about Nobody Knows How to Make a Pizza.
Sure. So over the years, a lot of people have said that a lot of kids like listening to me in my YouTube channel. So I've had the kind of like a kid audience to begin with. And I've been wanting to write a book for a while. And I was like, okay, I want to write a book, but I don't want to write the same book that every libertarian writes, you know, like Julie Borowski's Libertarian Manifesto or whatever, because I feel like there's so many libertarian books out there. And I kind of wanted to make a book that made an impact more so than just me expressing my opinions. So I was like, okay, how about a kid's book? I know there's some libertarian kids book out there, and they're great, but I wanted to kind of do a little bit different. And I was like, okay, what can I do here? I didn't want to make like a political indoctrination kind of creepy book or anything. So I was like, okay, iPencil is a great lesson to teach kids about how nobody knows how to make a pencil. There's millions of people involved, and they all kind of do their own thing. They all have their own specialized skills. But pencils are pretty boring when kids don't really care that much about those. So I was like, okay, what do kids care about? And I was like, okay, pizza. How about a cheese pizza? And talk about all the millions of people who are required to make one cheese pizza and how cheese pizza looks pretty simple, but there's so much more that meets the eye and all the spontaneous order that comes and invisible hand and division of labor. And I really took those complex ideas and broke them down into very simple, fun book. And I've had a lot of good response from people saying that their kids love it and parents love it too. And it's not just for libertarian parents. I've really tried to make it kind of a broad book that kind of just teaches economics. So I've had a great response, and I'm really excited about it.
How did you get interested in economics? Was it something that you learned in school, or was it something inspired by politics?
That's a good question. You know, when I think about it, as a kid, I was always kind of an entrepreneur. I remember in middle school, I had a babysitter's business where I was making money babysitting, and like I advertised in the newspaper and stuff like that. And then I had like a dog walking business later on and late middle school. So I guess I've always kind of been interested in entrepreneurship, which kind of ties into economics. And then I became a libertarian, and I realized there was a thing called the Austrian School of Economics, which I had never heard of. I assumed it had something to do with the country of Austria. Well, it does. Our economists came from there, but I thought it was like the government of Austria, and I was so confused. And then I kind of learned about Ron Paul talking about the Austrian school, and that kind of got me really excited about it because I always believed in like capitalism and free markets, but learning about the Austrian school, I was able to articulate it better, and I learned about money, which I just assumed like, oh, it's just this paper money. That's money. That's what the government says is money. And I've kind of learned about the history of money and all kinds of things that were pretty boring to probably most people, but I kind of learned. And I guess that's how I kind of learned about economics through my own entrepreneurship. And then later on, I was able to articulate it better because of people like Ron Paul.
Did you release the book yourself? I mean, talking about entrepreneurship, to have the initiative to write a book, was that hard for you? And what is that process like? Can anybody just publish a book right now? What are some of the lessons that you learned along that path?
Yeah, it's really cool right now because you can go on, I did Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, and anyone can self-publish. For me, I really wanted to self-publish because I wanted to have control over the book. I didn't want to have some publisher saying, oh, no, that's not good. Don't cut that out, or, them pick who my illustrator was. I really wanted to have self-control over it. I hired an illustrator because I suck at drawing myself. I went to this website called Upwork, which you can hire freelancers, and I just said, okay, this is the book idea, who wants to bid on this project? And I had this lady, Tatiana Kopatova, bid on it. She's from Ukraine, and she did an amazing job in these illustrations. And I had like an editor I found on Upwork, so I really wanted like the writing to be strong. So I wrote it out, I did a draft, and we went back and forth with the editor. So it was a long process of writing and editing and illustrating this book, but I did it all myself. I've always kind of been like a self-starter, like I'm not going to wait for somebody to tell me what to do. But yeah, I just did this book and I uploaded it on Amazon, and I'm doing all the advertising myself. So it's really just cool that we don't need like a publisher, you don't need an agent. I just have this social media following. I kind of took advantage of that and wrote this book. So it's really kind of a nice time we're living in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's cool that it will make a very good Christmas gift. So I already know what to do for that. What is going on for you next? Are you going to write another book? Are you going to make some more videos? Anything in the political world that you do feel like commenting on?
Yeah, I'm writing the second book now. It's probably going to take a while because I have all these ideas in my head. I'm trying to translate them onto paper and, make them appealing for kids, but fun and educational at the same time. I'm also slowly am getting back into making videos. I've done a few videos recently about climate change, because that's the big thing. It's nice because the climate change thing isn't so much related to Trump. I feel like all like the headline stories over the past year or two, it's been like pro or anti-Trump, which is kind of annoying to me because I really want to talk about the ideas and stuff, not just like politics. So I've gotten into making more videos, and I hope, I want to do this thing where I want to release videos when I want to release them. I feel like when you're a regular YouTuber, you kind of have to pump out content every couple of days, and sometimes you're not really that proud of what you produce. You just like, oh, I have to make this video, right? But I really want to make videos when I want to, when I have a good idea. So I think I'm going to do that from now on. Just when I ever have this spark of ideas, I'm going to upload a video.
Do you have a preference on what's going to happen in the political arena? Do you have a horse in the race? Do you think anyone is going to go up against Trump? I wonder if Hillary will come back. We'll see.
I don't know if she will. I feel like it's kind of late for her to get in if she will. No, I mean, there's no Democrat candidate that I support. It's kind of in the Libertarian Party. I've kind of been looking at it a bit, but I don't think there's anything really that's going to compete with Trump there. So I don't know. For me, I've kind of removed myself from like politics. I just kind of want to talk about the ideas. I want to write these children's books. I want to kind of have an impact on education more so than politics. I feel like it's just kind of gotten out of control.
Yeah, I understand. I feel the same way. I also feel like after the 2012 elections, I don't know. I think that there's so many different things that you can do to bring about a change in the world, and the government, while I think it's good for people to, I guess, pursue political office, especially on a local level, I'm not really a big fan. I think that business and entrepreneurship and family and love are the things that will kind of carry us through. Are there any things that you do right now to show your family your love, or that somebody does for you? Like, is there anything that you think that you can improve upon or share with people who might want to build a better relationship with their loved ones?
Okay. Let me think about this one. I think, I'm not somebody who, I'm not somebody who constantly says like, oh, I love you, I love you, I love you. That's not really me. I tend to show, I suppose, my love through my actions. And one thing that I tend to do pretty much every night is I cook a home-cooked meal. It's just kind of showing my effort. I try to make them healthy-ish. So I think that's one of the things I do. I think just do my actions. And, like I said earlier, if you're trying to find a flaw in me, I've been trying to work on my yelling, and my family has told me that I've gotten a lot better at that. I've gotten a lot better at just being patient. So yeah, I think just my cooking probably has been the biggest one, how I show my love.
I think that sounds like an acts of service. We did a show of the 5 love languages. Do you have any book recommendations? I mean, you have your book, right? And everybody should make sure that they go out and get Nobody Knows How to Make a Pizza. It's awesome. What ages is that for?
I said it's ages 3 to 8, and that's a pretty broad range, but I feel like a lot of parents, even with like toddlers, say they love like the pictures. There's like a lot of it's a really, really cute book. The pizza, and they love that. And then like the 7 to 8 year olds, they kind of understand the economics behind it. So yeah, I would say 3 to 8 is a good range.
And so any book recommendations that you have, things that have maybe helped you in your personal life or your baby life?
Oh gosh. I don't know. To be honest with you, I have not been reading books over the past year or two. I've been mostly just reading articles about parenting. I just read like a lot of Facebook pages about attachment parenting and peaceful parenting. Yeah, to be honest with you, yeah, I've kind of not really had the time to read books.
That's fair. Do you have families that you guys kind of hang out with, or do you kind of keep it intimate for now? Like, do you hang out with other libertarian parents, and do you guys, talk about, oh, these public schools or whatever?
No, to be honest, I don't know that many libertarian parents near us. I tend to hang out with normie parents, which can be difficult at times when they find out like who I am. My internet presence is kind of awkward situation. But there's just a lot of community events we go to, and we meet parents and we meet kids, because I think that, like I said, like socialization and playing with other kids is so important. So I want to get my son exposed to different kids. So yeah, I mean, it's mostly normie parents, and you kind of have to, bite your tongue at times. But yeah, it's fun.
Maybe that's actually a way to sort of bridge the gap with people, because even if I was a regular parent that, wasn't political and I saw your videos, I think that I would find them fun and playful. I don't know if I would think it was such a, I don't know. It's not like you're Alex Jones or something, So maybe it'll open up some conversations. Any final words for our proof of lovers? What about audience members that haven't found love? Do you have any advice for them?
Oh gosh, people who have not found love. Advice. I don't know. I've been out of the dating scene for so long. It's really hard for me to give advice. But one of the things I did say on my Twitter page is I get a lot of DMs from people, men, and like all they say is like hi or hey. And I don't know why that is. I feel like they get like a better response from women if they like ask like a relevant question or introduce themselves. It's just, I don't know why they just say like one word and expect an answer. So I feel like probably your communication needs to be better. I also feel like the best from people I know, and people I've seen who've gotten into relationships, I feel like the best chance of getting into one that actually works is your friends. Like your friends introduce you to somebody who's kind of been vetted by them. I feel like that might be a better strategy than, I don't know what they do these days, like Tinder and stuff, and it's a wild card out there. So I feel like kind of relying on your friends to introduce you to people, or even like your parents, which I know is kind of weird to some people think, what do my parents know? But I feel like your parents kind of have your best interest at heart usually, and maybe they know somebody like a family friend or somebody, or not everyone is religious, I know, but I feel like church is a good way if you're religious to meet somebody. I feel like a lot of young people who are even religious aren't involved in church. And I feel like that's a good community of people. So I don't know. I guess that's kind of my best advice that I could give to people.
What about people this is a good idea for a rom-com, people that are not that religious, but they hear that church is a good place to meet someone, and then they find Jesus along with love. I think that would be a good show, right?
Yeah, I was actually reading an article. The guy who started 8chan, which is like 4chan, but even worse, he was very miserable in his life, and it wasn't until he went to church he actually found religion, and he actually found a wife there, and he like completely changed himself, and now he hates 8chan. To me,
Really?
That was kind of funny. Yeah. I feel like you don't have to be like that religious to go to church, which may sound bad, but just really having a community and getting off the internet for once, and you realize that people aren't that bad. I feel like if you're on the internet, you really I know for me, I've had a very depressing view of people because there's so much angry people and so much hateful people on the internet, and you go out and realize, hey, people aren't that bad. So getting involved in your community, whether that's church, I guess you can go on like meetup.com and kind of see like hiking clubs, like biking clubs, book clubs, stuff like that. I think just taking a small step and getting out in the real world is probably so much better for your mental health, and you might meet somebody. I
like it. Very cool. Julie, one more time, where can people pick up the book and where can people connect with you?
It's on Amazon right now. Nobody Knows How to Make a Pizza. I'm also on social media. I'm pretty much Julie Borowski across the board on there.
Awesome. So guys, we'll leave some links in the show notes. Thank you all for listening. Thank you so much, Julie, for coming on the show, telling us a little bit about motherhood and your book. So this has been great. If people want to listen to this show, it is found on proofoflovecast.com, like podcast, but lovecast. And we come out with shows on Fridays. You should please share this on your social media or maybe write a review on iTunes. We're all over the place. You can find me at Queen Tatiana on Twitter, and I'm all over the internet. So just Google me. There's links in the show. And also, if you like the political talk on this show, you can go to thetatianashow.com, where we talk about crypto, politics, activism, different stuff like that. Hopefully not in an offensive way if this information is new to some of you. Anyway, thanks so much, Julie, for joining us today. We'll see you next time on Proof of Love.
Thank you.
Show me your heart. I know that it's beating. Tell me that you love me too. So I know your heart is true. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. Thank you for listening to Proof of Love. Please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Proof of Lovecast. More episodes can be found at proofoflovecast.com. And make sure you leave a review on iTunes and tell your friends. Proof of Love has been brought to you by CryptoMediaHub.com, a boutique marketing and PR agency for Bitcoin and beyond. You are listening to Proof of Love with Tatiana Moroz, Dr. Stephanie Murphy, and Lauren Kasovitz. This show may contain adult content, language, and humor and is intended for mature audiences. If that's not you, please stop listening. Nothing you hear on Proof of Love is intended as financial advice, legal advice, therapy, or really anything other than entertainment. Please take everything that you hear with a grain of salt. Oh, and if you're hearing us on an affiliate network, the ideas and views expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the network that you're listening on, or of any of the sponsors or affiliate products that you may hear about on the show.